What is a land development feasibility study, and when do you need one? I'm doing this video, recording this video because the real estate market in California right now is super hot. So it's early summer 2021, and there are all kinds of people putting money into real estate. Some of those people are not sophisticated developers, and so I thought this would be it's a good opportunity, good time to do this video and explain, if you're not a sophisticated developer, what is a land development feasibility study and when should you get one. So, what is a land development feasibility study? That is a study that is performed by a real estate consultant that attempts to answer 2 or 3 very basic but important questions, right? And so we can help you with that here at Redefined Horizons if you want. We can help you prepare a land development feasibility study. We engage other real estate professionals to help us with that. So, for example, civil engineer and a property appraiser. But we can help you with that. We can get you a feasibility study if you need one. So, what questions does a land development feasibility study attempt to answer? So, here are the 2 or 3 basic questions that you want to have answered in a land development feasibility study. Number 1, what are the options for developing the subject parcel, right? In California, that almost always depends on the zoning and land use planning regulations. It can also depend some on things like the availability of water, the environmental considerations on a parcel, constructability issues, right? So there are other things that come into the play, but one of the first things we want to look at typically is the zoning and land use regulations. So you just want to know, what are your options, right? Can you put on 20 1-acre lots or 10 2-acre lots or 5 1-acre lots with a commercial development? Like, what are your options for developing this parcel? Okay. Second question that you try and answer in a land development feasibility study, what will be required to develop the subject parcel? So once you know what some of your options are, what's it going to take to get you across the finish line, right? And we typically look at 3 areas when we're trying to answer that question in a land development feasibility study. So number 1, we're looking at what does it take to get your entitlements and your permitting. Okay, that includes your conditions of approval. What kind of conditions of approval is the local agency going to impose on the project? So that's kind of a regulatory. We look at it from a regulatory perspective. That is definitely a cost here in California. The second thing we look at when we're trying to answer that question is, what are your design costs going to be, right? And so we include in that survey, land title, land use planning, civil engineering, architectural costs could be a part of that. So from a design perspective, what does it take to get your project designed? And then finally, the third area is construction, right? Which is usually your biggest cost. Now once you have a design, what's it going to cost to actually build whatever improvements you need to implement your land development project. Okay, and we'll work with folks from the construction industry to come up with those costs. So the third area is what will the developed parcels be worth? That's the third question that we're trying to answer in a land development feasibility study. Basically, we want to know, is that project going to be profitable? And what's the margin of error, right? Some projects are right on the line, might be profitable, might not, depending on what happens, right? Other projects have a very comfortable profit margin, and that profit margin might vary a little bit, but some projects will almost certainly be profitable. So we try and answer that question. We're usually working with real estate appraiser or real estate broker to get a feel for what the market might be like. Okay, so again, what is a land development feasibility study? It's a tool, it's a report that you're using to try and evaluate whether or not a land development project is feasible, right? Is it profitable? Okay, the 3 questions that it should answer: what are the options for development? What's going to be required to develop? And what are the developed parcels going to be worth when you're done? Okay, so when do you need one? When do you need a land development feasibility study? I often recommend to potential clients that are just dipping their toes into the land development business that they get a feasibility study. My potential clients rarely take me up on that offer, which is frustrating. They're not inexpensive. A feasibility study does cost money, but they're a really important tool. So here are 4 reasons why you should get a land development feasibility study. Number 1, you have a large project. You got a large project, they're complicated, there's a lot of things that could go sideways, get a feasibility study. Number 2, You have a complicated project. Might be a small project, but it could be on a complicated site, right? So if it's an urban infill project, or it's in challenging terrain, or if it, from a regulatory perspective or political perspective, it's going to be difficult to get approved. Those are good reasons to get a feasibility study. Third reason is you have a project with a long time horizon, so it's going to take it a long time to get built. So maybe it's not going to be built out for 10 years, 5 years, or 10 years, or 15 years, which is not unusual here in California for large projects. So those long timelines obviously creates, there's all kinds of risks there. There's inflationary risks on your construction costs. There are risks that regulations will change over that period of time. Your zoning could change, other things could change. There's also, you don't know what the real estate market's going to do over that long period. So that all creates extra risk. It's a good idea to get a feasibility study. And then the final reason, the fourth reason you should consider getting a feasibility study, even with a simpler project, is if you're just not an experienced developer. So if it's and there's nothing wrong with, we work with a lot of folks that are doing their very first development project because we're a smaller firm, and that's okay. That's a beautiful thing. I don't think land development should be exclusively the domain of wealthy land developers. I don't think that's good for society. But if you are an inexperienced developer, if this is your first or your second real estate project, pay the money up front to get a feasibility study. It's going to help you make much better decisions. So there you go. That's what a land development feasibility study is. That is when you might need one, those 4 situations. And if you need help with one, you can reach out to me or my team, and we would be happy to get some folks together and prepare one of those for your next potential land development project.